Here's a first look at the Berkley MaxScent Crud Craw and Stank Bug.
Oh, there we go. Oh, freaking big one, too. God dang. Get it. Oh, what a freaking mess. But that's the new stank bug from Berkley. MaxScent. It'll swim, it stanks, it catches. Junk. That stank bug on the back of a jig, you know, that one I flipped him. That was a flipping fish that was in there, and I wasn't really ready for him. I mean, it's about my 5th flip in, and all of a sudden the line starts shaking. I'm like, oh God, got one. Wake up, Tom. But the nice thing about the stank bug here, and same with the Crud Craw, it's got that great swimming claw action, but it's got a flat spot. This thing is flat on the back of it. And you notice there, I'm skipping the bait in there. That's skipping it around docks, under this overhanging buckbrush and stuff, getting it into the willows. That's always really important. And that flat spot, I don't think that impacts how they eat it, whether it's round or flat. But man, flat baits like that just allow skipping and pitching back under docks into cover that much better. Man, that flat spot on there is perfect. I can skip that right in there, and he likes it. Old Stank. Give the old swim jig a trim. I don't like it much past the hook. I think you can't get the action of the tail as much, and you're not trying to hide the action. You're trying to get water to those tails. So I trim it. You see a couple of strands a little long. There we go. Like, I want the jig for bulk, the skirt, but I don't want to pass the hook. I want the action of the tail to kind of attract them, call them in. There we go. Trimmed up. So you can see the water's way up. There's a lot of cover here. I'm not sure. I might be able to catch these fish on a bladed jig or a spinnerbait, just covering water coming through here. Or you may have to flip them and throw in there and let it, you know, go to the bottom. And they might be real tight to timber. And a lot of times, if you're fishing with a buddy, you'll catch some both ways. So in the springtime when the water's up, that's why I like to go to a swim jig. And this one's pretty heavy. This is a 3/8. And then I have a stank bug, that new MaxScent crawbait on the back, and it's a swimming action where I can cover water just like I would with a spinnerbait or a bladed jig. But then I can flip it as well. It has a weed guard. It's a light duty one. I can still throw it right in there. So what I do is I flip it into the tree, let it go to the bottom like a Texas rig or a jig, and then I swim it out like a spinnerbait or a bladed jig, and you get the best of both worlds. You catch some dropping, some swimming, and then you let the fish tell you, hey, if they're all biting on the drop, then I'll probably go to a jig or a Texas rig. And if they're all biting on the swim, well, then I'm not going to let it fall to the bottom. I'm going to cover water a little bit faster. Let them tell you what they want, and then you can dial it in. You see the retrieve there, I'm kind of yo-yoing it like a jig through the timber a little bit and then swim it. Anytime I come over a big limb or something, you can kill it, let it go down there, fish it like a jig more, and then swim it more the open stuff. And you can try some retrieves just fishing one way or the other to try both. But I'll cast it out, let it go to the bottom, yo-yo it a couple times over the limb, see if there's one right there. Nothing there. Now just swim it out, and then you get that swimming action. See how thick this is. This is a beaver hut right here. Water's up. It's a flooded mess. But I went to the Crud Craw now. Same thing. It's got that flat kind of back, so it skips in there. A little bit longer, a little bit skinnier instead of that compact design, and more aggressive craws. This really big flapping. You can use it as a swim jig trailer and jig trailer as well. But for flipping, when they're more aggressive, or you want in this mud and stuff, you want to really get their attention. And also, here's the other thing. Those big flapping craws, this is a heavy weight. This is like a 5/16, almost 3/8. I can have the weight to put it back into cover and get it to punch down. Once it gets into the water though, those big craws, all that flapping, well, it creates a lot of drag. So it falls slowly. Even though it's all that action in the winter like this, a lot of times you want something that hangs in front of them for a while. Sometimes when the water's warmer, you want to zip by. They have to either commit or not. But when it's muddier and it's colder, you want to hang it in front of them for a while. These big craw arms, it's a lot of action, but it's a slow fall. So I can use a heavy weight. I can throw it back into the cover and get it through where I need it, pitch it easily, but then I get that nice slow fall. So I get that combo. Instead of having to use like a little bait and using like an 1/8 ounce weight or smaller, it's tough to pitch it around. I can put this thing into the really thickest spots where they're hanging out in the spring, where the big ones are staging, waiting to move up. See, that Texas rig, I put it way back in there. When they start spawning, they'll get tight to the base of these the buckbrush. They'll be right at the roots. You have to get it all the way in there, and the only way you can do it, a couple of those pitches, I'm throwing on top of the bush and just yo-yoing it vertically. But today, it's pre-spawn. The water's still in the 40s, so they're not spawning yet. And I'm trying to, it would take, this little pocket here would take a half hour, 45 minutes to pick through it, and going slow, and there's probably only a couple ones that are actively gonna feed. That's why the swim jig, I can use that and put it in there with that stank bug, skip it in, give them a quick drop, swim it out, pick off the active ones. I think it's just a lot more efficient today. Unless everything's on that drop, then I'll slow down and pick it apart. But like I said, I think the game plan when you're pre-spawning like this, cover water, you're gonna catch a lot more fish. The other reason I like the swim jig with the stank bug is just the fact that if I'm throwing a bladed jig, a chatterbait, throwing a spinner bait in here, if I make one bad cast, I'm hung up. I gotta go in there, I gotta fight through all the brush, I'm gonna blow out every fish for about 50 feet on either side. Not that I won't ever hang up, but a swim jig with that weed guard, I can make a bad cast, let it still go to the bottom, like that last one I caught, I can still pull them out. And then those baits, the action of the blade or the action of the spinnerbait blades, that gives the action to it. The swim jig, it's more subtle when it's cold like this, but then the stank bug on the back with those arms making the action, I don't have to shake the rod or do anything. Just slow swimming it, even at a slow crawl, this thing's still swimming, and that gives you the action, and I can keep in front of their face for a long time. And the other thing, the neat thing about the stank bug is these craws, you can see how they want to catch each other every once in a while. So it's kind of erratic. Crankbaits and bladed jigs, you're looking for that erratic kick out or something. Well, these arms on the stank bug kind of go like this, and all of a sudden they catch every once in a while. So then just one goes, then they both go, and then they'll hook up sometimes, and none are going. And if you ever watch a crawdad on the bottom, check out a video one, they pop, they scoot, and then they get they pull in their arms and kind of drift, and then they'll kick. And that's kind of what this does. The stank bug's going to give a lot of action, then it'll pull in, or one goes, and it's just an erratic. It gives them a reason for a fish that's following, or seeing so many baits go by that are just real rhythmic, and nothing in nature just stays the same forever. Now look how you put that thing in there. Just skip it in there, so soft. There's one in there, you're not going to spook him out. He's a lot of times, when it's coming across the top like that, when you're skipping it, it's like a minnow skirting on the top. They'll hit it the second it gets in there. I'm not spooking one if he's in that foot of water, and then I can swim it out, and if he's sitting 5 feet just cruising around here, I can still catch those fish. That ability to skip it in so quietly, put it up underneath the cover, man, that's why I love that flat side on a jig trailer, just the fact that you can skip it so much easier. How's that for a bright color combination? I've been screwing around here, trying to keep my bait up high. It seems like they don't want stuff flipped. So I went to a 3/8 ounce SlobberKnocker. The sun's starting to come out, muddy water. So the orange, the red gives nice high contrast. And then I put the new MaxScent Craw on the back there, the old Crud Craw. And this thing, it has wild kick and action. And I can fish this so slowly. And I don't know what it is. The front of this, the SlobberKnocker is just like kind of walking the dog back and forth, and the whole thing is just unstable and rocking and rolling. So I can barely, this is a 5-to-1 reel here, the Revo SX, and I'm just slow rolling it, and this thing is just like falling. I mean, it's like it's out of control. It's trying to go left, right, but it stays up real high in the water column. This flooded brush up here and grass is like a foot deep or less, and if you're on the bottom, they don't want it. So this is a really cool combination. I'm liking this. I mean, they might not eat it, but they sure as heck know it's there, so that's half the battle. Sun's out now. This muddy water, if it warms up just a little bit, might have found something here.